welcome to DN Arts Learn to Draw Lesson 3, Seeing Shapes. Today we're going to put another tool in our toolbox of learning how to draw and render your drawings correctly. The technique that we're going to learn today is trying to find geometric shapes within the drawing that you'd like to draw. It will help us if we can break our picture into a series of interconnecting geometric shapes to form the outline of our picture and accurately place it on the page. Then we can go back and refine our picture and put in the details and the shading and all the other things that we need to make the picture look more like what it is we're trying to draw. Now we're going to start out by learning about different types of shapes. And the first shape that we're going to look at, or a set of shapes, is geometric shapes. And these are types of geometric shapes. They're shapes that are created by using rulers and using mathematical laws. There are circles and rectangles and squares and triangles and other shapes that are mathematical in nature. They're precise and they help us to more correctly refine our subjects. Now there's also another type of shape, and that is called organic shapes. These are organic shapes. They're shapes that have natural but less defined edges. They're irregular, asymmetrical. They're natural and they're flowing and sometimes curving. They can also be called freeform shapes. These are the shapes that you can't use a ruler to draw for the most part. We could have used it on this house over here if we'd wanted to, but most of the others you wouldn't be able to use a ruler to draw. You need to draw them freehand. This drawing of mine, there are a number of geometric shapes, and they're hard to see, so I'm going to define them for you with a highlighter. I can look and see a triangle in the sail of the boat, and another triangle in this area. I have another triangle right here, and there's one in this area. And then, if I look at the waves, I can see some circular areas or patterns in the waves that'll help me to mark the place of where I'm going to put these waves on the picture. And then there's also, if I look at the bow of the boat itself, there's a kind of a squarish shape in there. And I could put a trapezoid in over here. And even the cloud has kind of an oval shape. So when I'm done, I have a number of geometric shapes that have allowed me to place my drawing on the paper in a way that everything relates correctly to the other shapes within the page. Then I can go back and I can put in all the details and correct things. Now, the nice part about the geometric shapes is I can look right here at my negative space and see where my sail has to be placed. It helps me put it in the right position. The same thing with the waves. I can look and see the negative space around it that helps me to put it in the right position. Here's the portrait that I did of my dad in World War II, and I can break him up also into some geometric shapes. I have a nice oval in the hat area. I have another oval for the face. I can put a triangle for the collar of his Navy uniform. There's a triangle around the neck area and a smaller triangle for the other side of the collar. Then I can put a trapezoid in over here for the sleeve, a trapezoid for the scarf, and another trapezoid for the other arm. So I've broken him now down into different geometric shapes, and it allows me to see my negative spaces so I can place him correctly. And then I can go back and rework and refine the picture afterward. It also allows me to put the facial features in a correct area by looking at how they fall within the oval, and then I can line it up better. All right, let's take a look at figure 5. I'd like you to print it out so that you can write on it. Figure 5 is the seagull, and we're going to try to find shapes within our seagull picture. You can see circles or triangles, rectangles, whatever shapes that you see. Your shapes may not be the same shapes as mine, but look at the seagull and use a pen or a pencil and put the shapes that you see right on the seagull. And I'll show you mine. I have a circle for the head, a triangle for the beak, I have a rectangle for the neck, and a great big circle for the breast. I have some triangles for the back feathers and the tail feathers. I put a rectangle around the leg area, and some triangles for his feet, and a rectangle for the stump. I could have put in a circle for the top of the stump too. Yours doesn't have to look like mine. You put down the shapes that you see. And when you're finished doing that, I want you to get a clean piece of paper, and I want you to begin to draw your bird looking at the negative spaces on the paper. So we have a negative space right here, though our circle is going to touch the top of the page. So as we're going to begin to draw that oval circle shape, keep in mind what your negative spaces around it look like. And never draw with a marker. I've said this in previous videos. The only reason I'm drawing with a marker is so that you can see it. But if you have a marker that you're drawing with, you're not going to be able to correct, and there are always corrections. All right, now when you put in your next shape, again, try to keep in mind your negative spaces. And this is my triangular shape. Now, if I'm going to take my ruler and actually put in the box that the seagull is in. That's one side of the box. But you want to begin to draw your seagull shapes and transfer them on that page. They'll interlock. They'll cross over each other. And use your ruler for those geometric shapes. It's very hard to start out drawing good geometric shapes without a ruler. But look at how everything reflects and works with the other shapes around it. And begin to draw your bird. Now when you're satisfied with your outline that you've done with geometric shapes, then I want you to go back and begin to refine and correct the details on your bird. Begin to redraw where you need to, add more detail, erase lines and shapes that you don't need, and put in the eyes and the toes and the feathers. We will be later on moving into topics on shading, feathers, and all of that, but do your best right now to just get the general picture of the bird by using your geometric outline. And when you're finished, we'll move on. When you've finished your drawing, turn your seagull upside down. This allows you to get another perspective of him and hopefully to be able to make corrections and see things a little more clearly. When you're looking at him and you see areas that need to be changed, go back in, make those changes. And when you're finished, we'll move on to our next drawing. In our next drawing, we're going to be working with this lovely little white chihuahua with a nice little attitude. He's figure 7 in our lesson plan. Take a look at figure 7, and I want you to begin to identify some shapes in the chihuahua. And on this one, you can also see I've identified my negative space, 1, 2, and 3. It helps me as I traced around the chihuahua just to get an idea of how he's placed on the paper. Then I want to start to identify shapes. And there's a few ways of doing it. Here's one example. I see the ears as triangles, the head as an oval. I have the round eyes, the round nose, a triangular shaped front of his face. Or, here's another example. This is why I say there's different ways you can see it. This one has the triangular eyes and the ovals, but the nose is, I see a heart shape there inside a circle, and I've set him in his little neck. So what I want you to do is take a look at figure 7, and then I want you to begin to set him up. You can print it out if you want, and you can make your shapes right on top of him, or you can get a clean piece of paper and draw your Chihuahua shapes on that. And when you finish that, we'll move on. Now that you've finished your geometric shapes on your Chihuahua, I want you to use your pencil and your eraser and go back and refine the picture that you drew. Change your geometric shapes into the actual shapes that you see on the dog's head. Erase any lines that you don't need. Change the shapes, add a little shading in, color in your eyes. And when you're done, I want you to compare your drawing with figure 7. You'll turn it upside down, you'll make the corrections that you think it needs, and then compare it with the original and see if there's anything else you'd like to change. As we finish out this lesson, we're going to take a look at figure 9, and that's the rooster. Nice, colorful, confident little chick. And there's a lot of geometric shapes in this one also. If you want to print him out, you may, or you can get a clean piece of paper and begin to break him down into some geometric shapes. On this one, I see a nice circle around the breastbone. I see a triangular shape in the neck. You're not going to see that very well with this pen. Let's try a better pen and see if you can see it better. Okay, there's a triangular shape. There's your circle shape. I'm going to break them up into a series of shapes up here. Little triangles and a box, circle around the eye, another triangle, and an oval. Lots of pieces. Let me bring him closer so you can see him better. Okay, and I'm going to do a triangle in his tail area and a box to define this section of his body. I'll put some triangles in around his legs and some rectangles and some more triangles. It gives me a basic shape. And I could even do an oval over here, half an oval, semicircle, say. And now I've broken him up into shapes. And let's see if I can zoom him a little bit so you can see him better. There you go. Okay. So now, transfer yours over. First do your geometric shapes and then transfer him over to another piece of paper. And do as you've done in the last two examples. Refine them. Turn them into the actual shape of the rooster, and add any shading, or even take out your colored pencils or your markers and add some color to this guy. Now continue to practice this technique with other things that you see during the week. If you have pictures in magazines you'd like to work with, or pictures off the internet, continue to practice looking for shapes and break everything down into those shapes, and then build your picture up from that. And as you continue to practice this skill, you're going to get better and better at seeing these things, just like we did with our negative space. We're actually using all of it together. We're using the negative space, we're using symmetry, and we're using the geometric shapes to better be able to draw the figures that we want to be able to render. So these three techniques are real basic, very important to be able to do well in order to become a good artist. So I would suggest that you keep practicing these three lessons until you feel really comfortable with them, and use the techniques in drawing other things, and you're quickly going to see an improvement in your drawing. Most of my younger students, I have students that are from 10 years old and up that are using these techniques. And by the time they get past this third lesson, they are already vastly improving their drawing skills. And as we continue on in future lessons, we'll be learning about values and shading and perspective and a number of other things that will continue to build on what you're able to do in your drawing. So don't stop here. You're doing great. Keep going. Please post your drawings so that other people can see them, and if you have any questions or comments, leave them for me and I will return them, get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you for being with me today. I hope you're having fun and enjoying your Learn to Draw lessons, and we'll see you soon.